It was at the end of 1999. A friend introduced me to this new game, Colin McRae Rally. I had never played any rally games before or had any real interest in rallying, but this got me hooked right away. It was fun and it felt real to me. Shortly after, I got the game for myself. I wasn't very good at it though. My friend had beaten me on the split screen matchups, so I wanted to improve. I get this idea. Maybe if I watch some real rallying with the pros, they can probably teach me a thing or two. We are now in January 2000 and the Monte Carlo rally is just about to start. The timing couldn't have been better. I literally started watching rallying just as a new season started. I can't say I was instantly hooked by Monte Carlo though. It's a special event, very narrow and sometimes quite slow, and it's very slippery of course. The roads in Colin McRae Rally were much wider, but I was paying a lot of attention to how the drivers tackled the slippery parts, touching the handbrake and sliding around the snow in the hairpins.
Kuusi jääläikkiä. Sitten on jäätä tästä loppuun asti. Jäätä koko ajan poikki. Izquierda 4 fast poco hielo. 40, derecha 2 menos.
Right away I was introduced to mechanical issues. All the Peugeots and Richard Burns' Subaru didn't start after a cold night. Mechanical issues played a huge part in winning or losing a championship at this point. For me, the 2000 season is very special, probably due to the novelty of how I discovered rallying that year, but also because of how everything seemed to be firing on all cylinders at this point. Rallying was hitting a peak. Many cars and drivers could win. One important factor around this time was the cars. Do you see any pattern here? Most of them have distinct colors. Red Mitsubishi, blue Subaru, yellow Seat, the boldly shaped Focus, etc. Every car was unique and different. Colin was the guy I followed. I didn't really know much about him, but his name was on the game, so that's what I held on to. Carlos joined him in Ford for 2000.
I think it's a good thing for the team for sure. I've worked with Carlos in the past and we've got on very, very well. It's a very strong team, if not the strongest team in the championship.
But looking back at those years, it never really happened, did it? It seemed like the Ford was never quite good enough. Colin had a very bad year in 1999. He had many accidents and the Ford Focus failed. There was just so many problems with that car, and it seemed to continue that way in 2000. Colin had many retirements and also some accidents.
Right tightens cat. A 50. 6 right minus opens. Into 6 left.
But Colin was always quick, still in his peak at this point.
Fastest through the stage was the now fired up Colin McRae, on a charge with first Gardemeister and then his teammate in his sights.
2, 3 left. And slow 3 right opens. 33.
But on the final stage, Kankkunen was handed a belated Christmas present, Colin McRae's third place. McRae's face said it all. The year 2000 had started as 1999 had finished on a low.
As the mechanics packed their toolkits, there was stunned disbelief at the return of the Colin McRae jinx.
Problem is, the Focus was never quite good enough. It never quite had the outright speed, in my opinion. It was good, it was almost good enough, but not quite strong as Peugeot or Subaru. But I would still say that 2000 was the best year for the first generation Focus. It could win on any surface, it had strength on rough rallies, and it even took a victory on tarmac, and they set competitive times on the tarmac rallies to come. That would not be the case in 2001 and 2002. The car would struggle a lot on tarmac. Colin had 7 retirements in 2000. Only 2 of them were his fault. The rest of them were problems with the car. The first one being the Corsica accident.
Going into stage 10, Colin McRae was 4th on the road and on course to take the lead in the championship.
A nasty accident. He was lucky to come out of there alive. His season was over after this one.
Nicky Grist was shaken but unhurt. It took 40 agonising minutes to free McRae, who then walked to a waiting stretcher.
He was about to move into the lead of the championship, and he was looking good for the next few rallies. But the accident changed everything, of course.
To San Remo in Italy for round 12, and amazingly, Colin McRae was back in action. How are you feeling?
Good. Better than I thought anyway. I mean, it's almost normal. There's a bit of a sort of pain in the left side of my face and a bit of discomfort in the shoulder, but I'm sure there's going to be no difference in my performance. Certainly physically I feel good. You know, even if I was 80% right and I could drive the car, I would be here. I've got to be here. It's the championships at stake. There's 3 rallies to go. And I've got a very good chance to win the title.
Credit where credit is due. Colin fought really hard on this rally and set some pretty decent times considering. Problem was he was a bit uneven, so the final result wasn't that great. He could have been and should have been much better. And the second accident happened on Rally GB.
Hole outside. And 6 left, opens long.
Just had an off. One of you. It's a shame too, because there was a really nice battle between him and Richard Burns. Richard had to win this rally, so he was fired up and going all in. Colin was actually matching and beating him on the stages. Considering Richard had been the quickest guy all year, I find Colin's performance on this rally very impressive.
6 crest. Into 6
Sadly,
right,
he would never win it again.
Here, 6 right tightens over crest and turn 3 right minus.
But yeah, I understood quite quickly why Colin was so popular. It was amazing to see him in action.
McRae was still 3rd, 28 seconds behind leader Marcus Grönholm, but only 1 second behind Mäkinen.
It opens over crest. Into slow 4 right. I think you've got to keep it tidy. Slow 4 right. Into 6 crest.
Colin would always look a little bit better than the rest. He always had a little bit more sideways, or a little bit more speed, or a little bit more crazy line. on the onboard camera that he had control over the car. He was relaxed, but still aggressive somehow. It looked right when he drove a car. I wanted to drive like that, both in Colin McRae Rally and in real life. It really became like a dream when you watched these top drivers in the World Rally Championship. It would inspire me for many years to come. It was just magic. As an outsider in 2000, for me it looked like Subaru was the team to beat. Richard Burns seemed to be good on every rally, especially when they introduced the new P2000. That was just a wonderful car. I think it's probably the best Subaru Pro Drive ever made. It's just beautiful to look at, that old two-door Subaru. In the hands of Richard Burns, it was the best car of that year. Or maybe I should say the quickest car. Maybe the Peugeot 206 was the best overall car for that year and for the following years to come. Coming into Sweden, I think everybody expected Tommy Mäkinen to be the man to beat again. He had won that rally many times. But that Peugeot in the hands of Marcus Grönholm, it was just fast right away. I would say Marcus was not the best driver this year. He won the title, but I think it was more down to the car and the problems of others, like the unreliability of the Subaru and Colin McRae's accident. When Subaru introduced the P2000 for Portugal, it looked like a winner straight away. It was just the fastest package and a second per kilometer faster than the old car. We should remember that the old car was good.
Subaru brought out a new version of the Impreza for Portugal.
The guys at ProDrive have been designing it for the last year, and although it doesn't look much different from the outside, there's a hell of a lot different under the skin.
We can see that the championship is getting more and more competitive, and we've tried really hard on this car to sort of set a new standard, and we'd like to keep some of those little tricks secret for a little while if we can. But it's not a James Bond game, it's also a bit of fun.
Every test that we've done so far has shown that the new car's quicker, so I don't think it's too much of a risk. I hope there's not a risk.
Right out of the box, the Subaru was lightning quick. Burns quickly opened a 40-second lead with 4 stage wins.
Right 20, flat right minus 50, flat left and easy left. 50, turn medium right to flat. To flat right, 50. Crest 30, flat right to right, max 70 braking.
I'm pretty confident about the car, and the only thing I'm concerned about is tonight. If they choose to run this last stage, it's going to be a big disadvantage for us because it means we have to run in the dust at night when there's no air to move the dust at all, and it's going to be quite bad.
By mid-afternoon, Grönholm had lost his lead to Burns.
Braking 50, very long crest 40, turn fast right, minus. Braking 50, very long crest 40.
But Grönholm retook the lead when Burns, who was running third on the road, was slowed by dense clouds of dust left hanging in the forests.
In the morning it was not good on the first on the road, but now when it started to be dark and the dust came up, so I had a small advantage, yes.
Richard, should that stage have been run?
Absolutely not. We're trying to drive flat out, trying to win this rally. I'm not prepared to risk the people's lives who are standing by the side of the road in the thick dust. The organisers should not have run this stage. It's not safe to do so. They should not have put me in the position to have to drive through that stage in that situation.
Despite all those problems, Burns would demolish the opposition 4 times the stage wins compared to anyone else. What I like about Richard this season is the way he drove. He was not just settling for points, he was going for the victories. he was taking the fights on every rally he could. For example, in San Remo he was fighting with the Peugeots of Delacour and Panizzi.
To beat the Peugeots, Richard Burns knew he had to hit the ground running. As in Corsica, he set the fastest time on the opening stage at Apricale.
They were obviously in a better car, but he wasn't gonna give up without trying. So he set his target on catching them.
80, easy left, and easy left 20, fast left. The fast left tightens maybe to fast left 40, fast left plus, and flat left 20, medium right plus 40, fast right minus, tightens 20, medium left 20, medium left minus light, and medium left 40, medium right minus 10.
He was in third place, just behind the Peugeots, and he was obviously so confident in the car that he was gonna keep pushing.
Burns showed on the day's first stage that third was not enough. He wanted second, or even first. Grönholm was out of the points, and he could smell the chance to retake the lead in the title race. He was driving like a man possessed. His desire to win had got the better of him. From the outside, the Subaru looked unscathed, but the radiator had been holed. Burns and co-driver Robert Reid nursed it as far as the time control, but the engine was cooked and the Subaru coughed to a halt.
It ended up in an accident. But he was going for it, and I really respect that. In Finland, he would be locked in a battle with Marcus Grönholm for the lead. He had lost the rally the year before, so this time he was gonna go for it.
Stage 1 was just 7 kilometers long, but the top drivers burst out of the blocks as if they were in a sprint, not a 3-day event. Burns was hot, but not fast enough. Grönholm was 9/10 of a second faster.
So he tried even harder.
But just when Grönholm looked as if he was going to monopolise the rally, Richard Burns put in a blinding time to win stage 6.
And harder.
Right max in to crest 30, left max times maybe 70, flat left in tightens, and flat left 50, left max 100.
Unfortunately, this couldn't last.
Stage 11 was one of the longest stages on the rally and one of the fastest. At the finish, the cars were nudging 180 kilometers an hour. With the finish line in sight, Richard Burns was in 6th gear.
And flat right 100.
Well, everything was going fine, and I just went into the last corner of the stage too fast. I had it as a 6th gear corner that tightened, and it tightened a bit more than I thought, and well, that was that.
Burns learned his lessons from these crashes. Maybe too well, though. In the future, he would seldom go for it like this again. I just love the way Richard drove that Subaru in 2000. It was smooth, effective, but still aggressive. Just watch how he sets the car up for this corner, side to side. And same thing here.
Left plus 80 braking, crest 20, slow K left. The K left minus definitely don't come.
Having this nice mixture of steering and sliding, trying to come out as straight as possible in the exit of the corner. But he also had the aggressiveness, like here in New Zealand.
K left 40, K right tightens, narrow 20, flat right 50, 20 flat right, 50 flat left, 80, right max to flat right 60, slight right, 60 fast left, minus, 20 fast left, 60, medium right.
He made some mistakes because he was pushing really hard and setting blisteringly quick times.
60 medium right plus the fast right minus 100 straight
Hopes of a win looked lost, but he drove like a demon. He set fastest time on 4 stages, at one point driving a second a kilometre faster than anyone else.
Flowing and beautiful with a hint of aggression.
flat left 60 medium left minus to medium left minus 2 right max in 70 easy left plus and flat left 40 fast left times, maybe slipping, maybe 20 slow.
There was something about the engine noise of that 2000 Subaru. It sounded angry and raw somehow. I really love it. It didn't sound quite like this before or after. The 2001 car definitely lost the edge, both in terms of sound and looks. You get a taste for what a car really sounds like in action. ...2000 was definitely his finest year in my opinion. I think it was the car. It just brought out the devil in him and made him push that extra bit. Just look at the stage victories compared to anyone else. One thing that has always fascinated me is the failure of Tommi Mäkinen in 2000. After having dominated the past few seasons, it all came crashing down in 2000. It was like the car was finally getting too old and Mäkinen lost his touch. This must have been very frustrating for Tommi. The first time in his career where he is not fighting for the victory.
Even with Gardemeister out, there were enough Finns fighting to keep the Scandinavian fans happy. Mäkinen, running on skinny snow tyres, was trying to force his compatriot Grunholm into making a mistake and throw away his first ever World Championship victory.
There is a Mäkinen pre-2000 and there is a Mäkinen post-2000. And there is a big difference between them. In previous years, you would have seen Mäkinen top the stats, both in victories and stage times. Not only did he win, he did it convincingly for the most part. That was definitely not the case after 2000. After Marcus took the crown in Sweden, he ran away with it and Tommi could never catch up. But it wasn't only that he couldn't catch up with the leader. Every championship contender performed better in 2000. Also, take a rally like Finland. He had won that rally 5 times in a row.
Grönholm ebbed and flowed around the 4-second mark. While Finland cheered on their new hero, Tommi was all but forgotten.
It was as if neither Mitsubishi or Tommi had any answer to the speed of the other drivers, or the lack of his own.
Could go during the test to this kind of tire what we have at the moment. Difficult to do anything at the moment. Mention quite a lot loose and maybe we have a bit too hard suspension setting in somewhere and I'm not quite happy for that. It seems to be car. It seems to be maybe it's flying very easily and jumping and flying and jumping too much and so on. It was.
Explanation from Tommi Mäkinen. Of course, if the wheels aren't on the deck, the car isn't driven, it's just flying.
Yeah, Tommi doesn't look happy at all, does he? It's like, what is he supposed to say? This shows what times we were in. or had been. Everybody expected Tommy to do well, especially Finland, his home rally, where he had won so much. He would never ever be competitive in Finland again. Honorable mentions: Carlos Sainz. Carlos joined Ford. On paper, everything was looking great. Two of the best drivers, a car with lots of potential.
A lot of people keep writing and saying it's going to be difficult. I have been working with him before. We have one problem in one rally. We speak about that, and everything was clear many years ago, and we have good relationship, and I'm sure we are going to work together hard to make for winning, and well, we will see what's happened after.
But it never quite happened. At this point, Carlos was now considered a veteran. He had been around for a long time, and his fastest days were definitely behind him at this point. And the car was not quite up to speed.
Despite his occasional burst of speed, Sainz still remained a lonely third, nearly half a minute down on the top two.
Para derecha rápida menos en tierra y mucho ras. Para izquierda rápida, ojo, poco tarde en tierra y mucho ras. Para izquierda rápida, ojo, poco tarde en tierra mucho y mucho ras.
I try hard, but I cannot follow.
Why not? Why are you not able to keep up?
I don't know.
You've got this new engine. Is it proving to be as good as you'd hoped for this rally?
We always said that the differences are small, you know. You cannot expect to have a new engine now with 20% more horsepower or whatever. It's nearly impossible.
Carlos was competitive and even won a rally that year. Usually not being in the fight, but just behind it, picking up good points as he went along. In the end, he even beat Colin in the championship standings. But it wasn't so much that his performance was better. Just like Colin, there was issues with the car, but he always gave it everything.
On day 2, 6 stages totalling 131 kilometres. In the thick mist, there was an air of frustration amongst the championship regulars. They couldn't do anything about the Peugeots. Sainz, though, was not about to give up.
Honorable mentions Part 2, Juha Kankkunen. Kankkunen had a second spring in 1999, joining Subaru and scoring 2 victories that year. He hadn't won a rally since 1995 at that point. I think most people expected him to do well in 2000. Sadly, it didn't quite happen this time.
Double caution, fast right to crest, 30 turn, very long K right. 30, easy left and slipping starts. Käyntiin vaan.
It seems like when they introduced the 2000 Subaru, he was struggling. Maybe the car was a step too far for him. A leap into the modern rally car that is supposed to be driven straight instead of sideways. In any case, he was seldom in the fight. He showed some flashes of speed in Finland, for example. On the second day, he was winning a fight against Tommy and even threatening Colin McRae.
Juha Kankkunen was up to 4th overall and was driving like a man possessed. But on stage 16, Kankkunen's flying charge was grounded with a puncture. Fourth place became 10th.
Just the tire exploded, on the fast part or after the mid point about on Pohjaan. Then the last 5 cases so rough road that we had to change the puncture and took some minutes.
Why did it take so long to change it?
We didn't have the nut gun with us. We just had the wheel plates and normal, and it just takes that long.
It capped a bad day for Subaru.
He would score points regularly, but usually in the bottom half. Honorable mention Part 3, Didier Auriol. Didier joined Seat for 2000 after Toyota left.
The other major change, 1994 world champion Didier Auriol moving to Seat.
I think with Seat, it's a young team and they want to really try hard and they want to really try to get results. So they have need to have an experienced driver to have a situation of the car.
There was potential in that Seat Cordoba. Like in Finland, he was setting some good times with the new Cordoba.
The Seat Cordoba Evo 3, a new evolution of the Seat Cordoba WRC, making its debut in this event. The main objectives were to increase the torque and performance of the engine, reduce the car's overall weight and improve weight distribution. After Special Stage 3, he's 7th and enjoying it. The car is going all right, okay. We are pushing very hard. We take a lot of risks to do good times. But there is a small problem with the engine torque on high level. After about 5,000 revs, I have to shift down after the corners. It's not really logical, but it's not so bad for the moment.
He showed some good speed, but the car never held it together.
Seat had come to Finland with a new Evolution 3 Cordoba, but the car was suffering from a few teething problems.
I don't understand. I brake and the car was spinning like hell, and they check on the... I explain, I say check because something was wrong, and suddenly I have all the brake on the rear. So it's why I have my spin.
Almost always problems.
But his teammate Didier Auriol was in much more serious trouble. The power steering had failed in the longest, twistiest stage of the rally.
We broken the power from steering and I do 2 stage without from steering and it was quite hard.
That Evo 3 looks pretty sweet, but it seems like the team just wasn't capable enough or had the resources to make the car reliable. But still, his ability was not in question. He would push really hard.
À fond avoir plonge, à fond avoir plonge, à fond avoir plonge, 80 mètres. Bosse à fond, sur droite à fond plonge, 80 mètres. Attention, frein bosse, sur bosse à fond, frein bosse, sur bosse à fond, sur gauche à fond, sur droite à fond, attention. Léger gauche bosse, sur droite à fond, frein, sur attention gauche, très bon plus panneau. 80 mètres, gauche à fond, poteau. Zodan à fond, et 70 mètres, léger droite à fond sur Zodan, sur 60 mètres droite à fond sur Boss, et 60 mètres Boss sur droite, très bon plus 5, plonge à l'arbre, Boss sur droite, très bon plus 5, plonge à l'arbre.
And he had this crazy style, lots of sideways and lots of Scandinavian flicks, really aggressive, as if he was dancing between the corners. Swinging the car from left to right. Side to side all the time. Very cool.
60 mètres piège. Attention droite, pont plus 4 à voir sur Boss, jette intérieur.
Auriol had been quickest on 4 and so would start the final day in the lead, 30 seconds ahead of Carlos, with the Spaniard a further 14 ahead of Burns.
In his peak, an all-or-nothing driver, who was guided by a force he called the feeling. He needed a good feeling with the car. If he had good feeling, he would be unstoppable. If he did not have the feeling, he might as well just stay home. I really like his style. 2000 was a special year. It's one of the most unpredictable ever. Many talk about how fantastic 2001 was, and I agree with that. I don't think anyone could have predicted what would happen this year. Marcus would take the title, that Colin would have this accident, Tommy having a bad year, etc. Things just changed so much during this season. Rallying was hitting a new peak, but that peak wouldn't last. Soon things were about to become a lot worse, and it would never really recover again. It was very short and sweet. That's what makes it special. And to think that, for me, it all started with Colin McRae Rally. I wonder how many had a similar experience to me around that time. I guess quite a few actually. For all these reasons, 2000 is my favorite season.
40, slight left over crest, 2 crest, 170. So slight left over crest to crest, 170, sand entry, medium left minus, N, and medium left.